Ostara blessings, and I am sat in my garden today, and the actual time of Ostara was 9 a.m. this morning, but I've been busy in the garden all day and I've only just managed to grab 5 minutes to crack on with this video. So the wheel has turned once more and there's signs of spring everywhere. My garden's starting to burst into life, and the equinox is a time when the hours of daylight and nighttime are of equal length. The soil is warming up in the ground and there's bird song everywhere. And with spring, our energy seems to lift slightly. I know I get like a burst of energy in spring that just wasn't there over the winter period. I seem to come out of my own variation of hibernation. And the weather this week has been quite nice, especially after such a long winter. And the weather this week has been a welcome reprieve from the winter, but it is England, so you know, it could turn on a penny. And I've been trying to get the garden as ready as I can, and it is coming along, but obviously due to my health limitations I have to rely on an awful lot of assistance from other people around me. I'm always having to rope them in. Nearly getting there now, but the greenhouse behind me over that way does actually need repairing after the last storm still, sadly, but I'm getting there. My initial priority after the storm was focusing on the chicken run roof repair and the fence over here that had completely come down that needed replacing too. So they were the initial priority, so now I can start to focus on the greenhouse. The dandelions are starting to pop up everywhere, and I am actually quite looking forward to getting my nieces around here with my daughter and making some dandelion honey, because it tastes absolutely delicious and it's full of so much nutritional benefit. When we took these weeds out of our diet, we really did a disservice to ourselves. And I've spent a lot of time repairing the soil in my garden, so I know that my dandelions are wonderful medicinally as well as a nutritious food. And dandelion is an amazing herb after winter to get rid of all that sluggishness. It's an effective cleansing herb due to its diuretic properties. It should never have been weeded out of our diet, never mind our gardens. And combine that with the fresh shoots of nettle, the abundance of cleavers, and even dock. Nature's provided us with a wonderful spring tonic that's full of all those nutrients and minerals that we need after that sluggish winter period. And nature's quite amazing at bringing in the foods that we need for that particular season. Our ancestors knew, and they practiced that with ease. It's amazing what knowledge we've actually lost in just a few generations. My eldest swears by nettle soup and always wants a really good supply of it. Sorry, the sun's in my eyes really. I sat in the worst location, but she loves the fact that it's so full of nutrients and minerals, and because she's quite anemic, she's regularly anemic herself, just don't absorb and hold on to iron at all. The nettle is a really good boost in the springtime for her. Personally, I don't think you can beat sitting in the sunset with a glass of nettle beer. And now I'm not a big drinker, I'm really not, but I will have medicinal ales periodically, such as nettle beer, elderflower wine, or a mead, like a little sip around a fire periodically, maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. But I like that. That's a nice way of bringing some nature in too. And obviously it's Ostara too today, so there's lots of egg symbolism, and if you have chickens like I do, you'll find that they're laying properly again by this time of year. Well, most are anyway. Don't worry if yours are just a little bit behind, it can go by your zonage. But obviously after a long hard winter in the past, eggs would have been crucial. They would have been a crucial protein source that was suddenly becoming more abundant and available again. There's a lot of crossover symbology with the different celebrations that take place around this time of year, and they tend to focus around renewal, rebirth, regeneration, and new life, because it's spring and it's emulating what we see in nature all around us and bringing that energy in. And I have to admit, I have been hit by the spring cleaning bug, despite saying every year I'm not going to give in to it. So I've rearranged kids' bedrooms and all sorts this week, but I feel quite accomplished as a result. Later on, I'm going to stain the house, and staining is actually the old Celtic terminology for smudging an area. I'm getting rid of those negative energies and welcoming it in the new. So I've had the windows and doors open all day too, just to flush that air through and get rid of them final last remnants, them cobwebs of winter. And in the past, they didn't have carpeted floors or solid floors like ours. A lot of the time it was an earthen floor. So this would be the time you'd go out and they'd gather the meadowsweet and they'd lay that down on the floor. And obviously that would release lovely plumes as they were walking across the floor as well. Spring is a wonderful time to reconnect with nature and welcome nature into your life. I also think when you grow things in your own garden, connect with your own garden and the cycles of the plants there, that you can't help but fall in line with nature and the seasons to some degree, especially if you're growing food or medicinal herbs too, because you're relying on those cycles for that purpose. So it becomes an intrinsic part of your day-to-day life eventually, and you just fall in line with the seasons quite naturally. And being at one with nature and just sitting and embracing my garden. Perfect timing. But just sitting in nature and embracing my garden is a huge part of my pagan practice. It really has become a part of my extended sacred space. Although I'm regularly reminded that I live in the middle of a busy estate in Liverpool. But when I didn't have a garden, I did used to make an effort to go to the nearest local green space once a week, even if it was just to sit on a bench. And I enjoy going foraging as well, and this is a wonderful time of year to get back out there. I mean, I've stopped being foraging, but it's more sporadic over the winter period, over the dark half of the year, whereas in the light half of the year we get much more abundance of foods available out there seasonally, so we can get back out there and really start connecting with the land and foraging once again. But again, do so responsibly, only take what you need. I'm absolutely knackered today. I didn't sleep at all last night, to be honest with you. I was having a lot of pain. So I'll look rough as anything today because my cortisol levels are on the floor, and it's partially why it's taking me so long to do this video too. But again, you're going to have lots of jack by the hedge and wild garlic now as well. Like, you can get out there and just experience a little bit of that. Bring that home with you, include it in your cooking, and just see how you can connect with the plants in that way. And obviously there's other plants associated with the spring equinox too, because you've got things like chamomile that have a strong association, meadowsweet, which I briefly mentioned earlier. We've got our cleavers, which is great for flushing out that lymphatic system, our nettles, our docks, our dandelions, which we all mentioned earlier as well. You can see primroses dotted around my garden, and they're wonderfully medicinal too. Lavender, thyme, honeysuckle, lemongrass. I mean, my echinacea is coming up beautifully at the minute. I just sprinkled the seeds down because they were old seeds, and I was like, I'll just throw them down and see what happens with these, as you do. Just scattered them. I didn't actually think anything was going to materialise, but I'm actually quite impressed at how everything's starting to come along in the garden. So this spring, why don't you try and include some wild seasonal foods in your diet too, and just see if that gives you that little extra oomph. Just see how you feel afterwards, see how you connect with the energies of that food that you're bringing into yourself. And nettle cake is actually one of my favourites. So if you get a chance to make yourself a nettle cake and you want the top shoots of the nettle, like the first top 5 or so leaves of the young growth nettle as well, not the older leaves, you want the new fresh growth nettle coming through. If you can do that and make yourself a cake, you will not regret it, because nettle cake is absolutely divine. And I do actually have a video of the recipe for that on here somewhere. Tonight I'm probably just going to light a little fire and sit down there and just enjoy the sunset with a little fire to celebrate the rest of the story. Because I've been in the garden, I've had my hand in the soil, and you don't get much more connected than that, do you? So what are your plans for the spring equinox? Let me know in the comments.